All right. Hi, this is Deanna Wolf. This is my second podcast. This is a Biceps to Balance podcast where we interview people who are making a difference in the world and bringing positive change to the planet. And today we are meeting Jenny McCarty, who is a artist who is essentially the leader behind the Park Sticker Rebellion. And I'm going to, before I introduce Jenny, who is amazing, I'm going to explain what that sticker rebellion is so you know what we are talking about. So, if you didn't know, on this year's annual Parks Pass, which gives you access to parks for a year, I always get them. We have this, which is President Trump and George Washington on there. Now, normally the Parks Pass goes to an artist who wins a contest and their picture goes here. So some of us are not happy with this. If you're wondering why, it's because essentially our current president is not and has not been supportive of national parks. His presidential budget request last year requested a 30% cut in their operation budget, which is not great. So this doesn't really make a lot of sense. So Jenny, the artist that we are going to speak to, made these amazing stickers, right? They are amazing, beautiful. Here's the pica. I got another one that also has the um, gray wolf on it. It's amazing. And you can place this right on top. Now, this caused such an uproar. First off, there's like hundreds of news articles on this. I don't know, she's probably sold thousands of these stickers, I think. That the administration heard about this and they said, if you put the sticker on here, then your pass is no longer valid. Well, that's not great. So those of us who still want the stickers, put our stickers in this little plastic sheath and you can still do it, which is what I have been doing. So you can get these stickers at Sage Leaf Studios. Look for Jenny McCarty and you can hear more about her work very soon. So that's what the Sticker Rebellion is. It's amazing. It's a way to express your feelings about what's happening in this country and also support our national parks. Okay, so a little bit more about Jenny, and then we are going to hear from her. She is lives in Boulder, Colorado. She is a water resource specialist. She's been an artist for lifelong. She is originally from Evergreen, Colorado, and she is an ecologist. So she does a wide range of amazing things, in addition to being a great artist and being a bit of a rebel with this park sticker rebellion. So, Jenny, I'm going to turn to you. Are you surprised by all the attention that has come to you from this park sticker idea? And why do you think this has happened?
Well, first, thanks so much, Deanna, for the really nice introduction. That was awesome, and a lot has changed. I would say that yes, I am very surprised about the attention, just about what I have done as a single person, but I'm not surprised at the attention that the new Parks Pass design has caused. I'm not surprised that when one single person provided a potentially creative alternative, that so many people got behind it. It really has turned into a community effort at this point between myself, my husband, volunteers, everybody who's purchased a sticker, everybody who's read all the articles that have come out that you mentioned. I am not surprised that it got so big because people were really looking for something different.
Yeah, and it's an opportunity to express your feelings in a very positive way. And I think artists have a huge role in um, social change, right? I mean, that's always been the case. I just think we don't really realize it until it happens. But this is one way that you're doing what artists do really well. So what was the impetus behind the idea? So
Well, the new 2026 design was released in late November, early December, and like many people in my community, I was upset about the new design. And I made a joke on my socials. I have these little round stickers of the pica, and I include them in certain orders as like a little extra thank you. And I made a joke. I was like, good thing I've got this little round sticker to go right where it counts. And people loved that. They thought it was hilarious. And they said, how do I get one too? And I started thinking about how I could actually make legitimate stickers to go over the front of the Parks Pass. Historically, the back of the Parks Pass has really been what rangers look at. It's got the date, your signature, all the specifics, and the front has they've generally accepted stickers. People like to go around to national parks, collect stickers, put them on the front every year, those kinds of things. So I thought about actually making a sticker to cover the front. And I had painted three different national parks, the Wolf and Grand Teton, which you showed, the Pika and Rocky Mountain National Park, and then a grizzly bear in Denali. And I shared those three options with my community and I said, which one would you like for your park pass? And they said all three. So I give the people what they want. I made all three, and maybe sometimes with so many different designs, it creates a bit of an inventory headache. But I think at this point, we've gotten the hang of things, and it's really fun to give people a choice and figure out which are people's favorite national parks and which ones they most closely identify with and have special memories of. And so that's been really fun to provide that variety and hear people's stories.
Well, it sounds like it just evolved right into this thing.
Yeah.
So how many have you sold? Like thousands at this point, probably.
Yeah, I think it's near to 5,000. I should have checked before we jumped on, but it's a lot. And
That's
I should say too, that's almost 5,000 orders. We have sold far more stickers, individual stickers than that. A lot of people buy all three designs or they buy 15, 30, 40 different stickers to hand out to friends and family and put on water bottles. So it's really thousands and thousands of stickers at this point.
that is totally awesome. That is amazing. So, questions for you. Why do you think parks are so important and why do they sort of represent America? I mean, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I do think they represent our country. But why do you think national parks are important to America and the American people?
First and foremost, in many ways, it is such an accomplishment of the United States. I've been really lucky to travel the world and also speak with a lot of people that travel to the United States. And the national parks that we have here are such a totem to how amazing this country is. People could travel from all over the world to see our national parks. When you talk with people in other countries, they have memories of, oh, one time I came out there and I got to visit Arches, or I got to go to Glacier National Park, and it's their favorite memories of being in the United States. So I think our country really did something incredibly progressive at the time, protecting wild places for our people. And at the same time, we have done a great job of keeping them pretty egalitarian. Very low cost for a national park pass, right? At $80 in today's days and age to get you into hundreds of public places all over the country. For some people, $80 might be a lot, but for most of us, you can't even get a bus ticket sometimes for less than $100. So to be able to get into all these amazing places for $80 is really incredible. And at the end of the day, it is really egalitarian. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your race is, what your income status is, all these different things. It's a beautiful place for people to go and enjoy nature and scenery and be connected to wild places. And I think it's really important that people have access to nature. You're pushing a nonprofit, right, that celebrates the beauty and wonders of nature, and that is so important. People's mental health, physical health, community health is all wrapped into nature, and national parks are a huge part of that.
Yeah, they definitely are. So what about your personal experience with parks? Did you grow up visiting them? I mean, what's your family history there?
Yeah, I am very lucky. National parks have been a multi-generational legacy in my family. And my grandparents used to take my dad and his five siblings in an old Shasta trailer to Yosemite National Park. And when I was growing up in Colorado, my parents really focused on exposing us to national parks, whether it was family reunions in California and Yosemite. We've done Grand Tetons. Uh, I worked up in Alaska for a while and I got to backpack through Denali a few times with family and friends. And grad school right outside of Yellowstone National Park. I spend a lot of springs and falls out near Moab and Arches. And Rocky Mountain is in our backyard. I feel really fortunate to have a national park less than an hour drive away. So they're just a huge part of our family time together, spending time with friends and getting out into nature.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what about you? Do you have a long history in national parks?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only vacation that we really took was to go to Sequoia National Park in the summer, and we would stay in these rustic cabins, which were like just tents. You know, they basically were wooden with holes, um, and at the time you could camp in a giant sequoia grove. So it was just anyway, that's the beginning. Like we would do that. It was wonderful. I always had a wonderful time. And then I got this idea from working up there that, gosh, wouldn't it not working up there, but just vacationing that it would be fun to work up there. And that just created a whole, once I started working in the parks, my life changed big time because, when you're out in a beautiful place for an extended period of time, it just really it affects you in ways that are unexpected, and that definitely happened to me. And so here we are. I mean, this has been a huge part of my life.
That's great.
Though we definitely there are issues with our country right now, which we should probably talk a little bit right now because it's not all sunshine and roses, right? I mean,
Right.
I don't really have a question prepared to address the situation with you know the violence that's happening in our country. I'm not proud of us right now, right? I mean, I'm proud of our parks,
Past
but
week has been heavy.
oh, I mean, I was in Yosemite when all this stuff was going down, and I just um I don't know. I feel like we need to get together and realize that, we are in this together, Americans, and we need to deal with the situation that I would say we are responsible for. So that being said, back to you. Parks are generally thought of as bipartisan or nonpartisan, right? In your family, right? You have you're a vegetarian and your your brothers, I think, are hunters. So, how do you manage that? Yeah, how do you manage that? You guys are different.
Yeah, we're different, but I think that when it comes to politics, for instance, or everything that's pushed by the media these days, people think it has to be black and white. People have to fit into these very strict categories. And I think we forget that there's actually a lot of beauty and nuance and variety and the gray area. And in my family, for instance, we I am a vegetarian, as you mentioned, and I'm not perfect. It's 98% of the time, but sometimes I go to a place and the only option is meat, those kinds of things. And so it's not strict, and I don't judge other people who choose to eat meat. But one of my brothers, he lives in Montana and he pulls a tag every year and he hunts. And I might have a bite of whatever he's successfully been able to bring home that year. I think it is rooted in family tradition and surviving off the land and celebrating together this accomplishment. And for some people, hunting might be a grotesque thing, and that's fine. But it's a good reminder, too, from an ecologist perspective, that hunting is actually very important for maintaining healthy populations of certain animals. Uh, at the same time, I wish that we could, as a nation, remember that national parks are not partisan. They never have been. This is the first time a president has ever put their face on a national park pass, has ever really directly impacted the national parks in such a political way. And it really strips away the countrywide ethos that we've had around national parks, that they're these shared spaces for everybody. And I wish we could just remember that they are really beautiful places that we all share, and political agendas don't belong there.
Right. Well, except for the agenda that we should have parks and there should be
Yeah.
more of them. But I mean, my work most recently has been to build that bipartisan um, congressional support for parks so that it's not it's not this red versus blue thing when it comes to our national parks at all. It shouldn't be. And most recently, just I think it was in January, or actually it was at the end of December that there was legislators, 28 members of Congress sent a letter to um, the Department of Interior saying, hey, make sure that you fully staff parks this summer. We support that. And 14 were Republicans and 14 were Democrats. And the idea behind that, of course, was to make it really clear that this is not a red versus blue thing. Everybody uses parks and benefits from them. So let's not make this about party. Let's make it about country, right?
Yeah.
And we've done really well with our parks. I'm very proud of us with our parks. I'm not proud of these other things that we're doing right now, but hopefully we can fix that if we unify, right?
Well,
So
and I think to echo that testament, if I could just real quick, and to shine some positive light on it, there are certain congressmen that have tried to open up our national parks to commercial and natural resource exploitation over the last year. And both times, the American people on both sides of the aisle have said, no, thank you. We don't want to see any bills like that in Congress or in the Senate, and have gotten those bills taken out of the docket. So I think there is a sense from American people, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, that national parks are not open for capital exploitation.
exactly. And that's their beauty. Once you're in the park, you're free of all that. And it's
Yes.
such a powerful experience. I mean, that my first summer working up in a park was just formative for me because I was now finally removed from all the stuff of life, and I was just out in the woods most of the time. And a month of that, and I was like so happy and everything was wonderful, and I thought, oh, I didn't even know that it was possible to feel this way. Nature is really a great healer of wounds. So I mean, I don't know, maybe it can be the healer of our country as well, unifying people to do the right thing. We'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, I have more questions for you. If you could imagine a possible future for parks in this country, just generally, like what would that look like? Like, what do you want to see happen if you could wave your magic wand?
I would love to see a law that says that national parks are off limits to any future bills that might open them up for any kind of natural resource extraction. I would love to see costs stay really low and accessible for all individuals. I would love to see more of them. And I think it's a good reminder for people that that National Parks Pass is actually called the America the Beautiful Pass, and it gives them access to lands that aren't just national parks. It's a lot of different publicly owned lands that are managed by the federal government. These may be BLM lands, U.S. Forest Service lands, places where people do enjoy hunting or hiking or backpacking without a permit. Uh, Going on big trips and maybe getting away from the big crowds that sometimes you might see in certain national parks. And I would love to see all public lands protected and more of them created.
Yeah,
Yeah. What
great.
about you? I'm curious. I know you have strong thoughts about this. What would you like to see?
Well,
I'd love
I
to hear
I
it.
agree. I concur. I like your thinking about a special like a law that actually reasserts the idea that parks shouldn't be exploited for resources, right? I'm like, is there a law like that? I feel that I need to do the research based on just listening to you. We
Yeah, let me know what you find.
Yeah, I
I
will.
would
I
think
will.
that
Go ahead.
those bills introduced wouldn't have been a question if we did have one.
Yeah, I think it's a funny thing though. When you're talking with other citizens, right? It seems like parks are just obvious. It's so, we should have more. And I definitely want more parks to come to be. But when you start getting into the political machinery of parks, like it's a surprising how much resistance you get to parks and how hard they are to create. So that's one of our things that we're working on actually right now, which is trying to make it a little bit easier for parks to come to be and have citizens, activists have more of an opportunity to participate in that process. Because right now, it's just so hard to make them happen. It's really costly. It takes decades of time. We should do what we can to make it a little bit easier. Meanwhile, this administration is trying to make it really easy for oil and gas to develop wherever. And I think we need to have a counter move to that, which is I think we should make it a little bit easier to make parks come to be, right? They're so popular. They make tons of money for local communities, and they cost the federal government just 1/2000% of the budget. Like,
And
it's
they bring
what
in a lot of revenue.
that's right.
Hmm.
That's right, they do. And I mean, there's the whole thing going on with ICE, and the big beautiful bill actually, I think, gave 75 billion to the ICE operations, which is that would fund our national parks, the operating budget for 25 years. So we we can spend money on parks. We hardly spend any right now, and we need more parks, and we need to invest in them. So, okay, you have a long life ahead. You are young and energetic, and you've done this amazing thing. Do you have three pieces of advice for people who might get into this realm of activism or just general, just life advice? I know you're
Oh
young,
my
but
gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that question. Right now, with the heaviness of what's going on in the media, I think the number one thing is just remember that one person can make a difference, even if it's small. Like if you drop a pebble in a lake, you don't know how far those ripples will go. And there's this actual great quote that action is the antidote to despair. And just know that your small actions do have positive impact. So no matter what your skill set, no matter your talents, no matter your gifts, think about how you might leverage those for good and the issues that you really care about. I have a friend, for instance, and she says, I have no skill sets, but what I can do is I can go to the soup kitchen and help in my local community and hand soup out and make people's lives better here locally. And that brings her joy too. It's not giving, whether it's donations or your time or your skills, it's not a one-way street. There's so much science that shows that psychologically it benefits the giver, sometimes just as much, if not more, in healing whatever they have going on than the recipient. So I think just remembering that giving is such an important part of humanity and being part of a community bigger than yourself. So, how can you give? And the second part of that is rest. And that's really the beauty that I can bring as an artist. No matter what energy you're putting out into the world, also with the news media and the constant bombardment on our nervous systems that we experience with the negativity in the news these days, remember that there's time for rest. You talked about how being out in nature, it's amazing how much that changes you. And I'm sure for a lot of your listeners, these are people that love the national parks. They love getting out in nature. They know that change inside that happens when they can disconnect from the screens, from the media, and remember that there's stuff happening out there that's bigger than us, just being a part of nature. And as an artist too, my goal is to help remind people of that beauty when they're inside and having it on their walls. And if you've had a hard meeting or you just read an article that shocks you, can you just stare at that piece of artwork on the wall for a second and reset that nervous system a bit? So second recommendation is rest. And my third recommendation really is no matter if you're an introvert, an extrovert, no one person is an island. You can't do it alone. Make connections, talk with other people, collaborate, build that community around you. Life is so much more beautiful, and sometimes the hard things feel so much more possible when you have a community behind you to make it happen. And these stickers are a great example of that. I could not have done this by myself. It did not happen just me. It happened because my community said we want this to happen. it happened because they started buying the stickers, and then all the fulfillment happened with hundreds of hours of volunteer time helping me pack orders and get them out to people all over the country. So really, community is critical.
That's awesome. That's a great advice. I mean, action, rest, super important, and then find your community, right? Those are the
Yes.
three things. I think that's, I mean, ultimately the recipe for a pretty happy life. I mean, and also a life where you can contribute, right? And again, that's tied to some happiness, right? That, I mean, for me, it's I don't think I'd be happy with a life that was just all about like my me, you know. It wouldn't feel good to me. So it's
Having
pretty
purpose is important.
yeah, but the purpose has to, for me, the purpose needs to be in some way I'm improving things for others.
Mm.
And that I just I don't know why. That's just I felt that way for a really long time, and but that's a challenge, right? Because then your question is going to be like, well, how what do I have to offer? But I love your example, where you're a friend who's just going to the soup kitchen to do like the one thing, like you just do the one thing that you're good at doing and share that. That's the
Yeah.
formula, right?
Yeah.
So. I mean, for me, early on, I was like, I don't know that what I'm good at. So there's even another problem, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
We can still be decent human beings to each other, and that's not hard to
Totally.
do. So,
If I could add a little bit to that too, I was talking with a woman last week and she said something that hit me profoundly. She said that our generation, specifically my generation, has never really had to learn civil disobedience and civil protest. We've never really lived through a time of war or uh, civil unrest. And so we have to reteach people how to do that. And I think, especially when I talk with friends and colleagues in my generation, there's this kind of confusion about what they can do. And it really is those little things like showing up at your soup kitchen, or in my case, when volunteers came in to help me pack stickers, all of a sudden they realize that they do have the ability to do other things, and it's emboldened several of other ones to get connected with other events going on in our community and go do other things. So it's really small acts, and your network grows. We talk about community, your knowledge grows, you learn how to be more involved and really make a difference. And probably like you, for me, all of these are all these little small steps that lined up to create the sticker and make it happen. I'm sure for your nonprofit, it was all these little steps that eventually got you here. But you can't go down that path and get where you are now without taking the first small step.
that's right. Yeah, you have to just do one step at a time. I mean, and sometimes things can feel heavy and they can feel really hard. And, when I have those kind of moments, like the past couple days, I've been like, oh my God, what are we doing in this country? We're shooting each other. It's not okay.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, we'll just do one thing. You just do this one thing today. And then the next thing you'll do next. And I'll make a list of just like one little thing that I can do. Like I can send that email today, right?
Yes.
So it just
I
kind
can
of
call my senators today. That's easy.
right, right. I mean, and it's just those little things I think get us moving, and then you kind of break through, and then there's a momentum that builds, right? At least even in my worst moods, or I just do the one thing, and it's like, all right, okay, I can probably do the rest.
Yeah.
So it works that way. So I found, okay, in relation to this meeting, I found this quote, which I thought was so appropriate, about the role of artists. And I think it's appropriate to your stickers. Um, the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. This is by Tony Bambara. And I'm going to read it again because I think it's so great. The role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And I feel that your stickers, especially the pica, which I love, totally do that, right? Like it's a fun thing to do. They're really beautifully, it's kind of going in and out of, but I'll post these later. So you did that, right? And and I was really thinking about it, about how art is woven into social change throughout history, right? And the role, I mean, artists can, do beautiful works because it brings them joy. That's what my mom does, right? She's like, I really enjoyed this, so I'm just gonna paint it.
Mhm.
But it's also an expression of what's happening in the world, and it gives people a community and an opportunity to share their feelings and also look forward to a future that, for example, has potentially more parks in it. So you
I
have done that. So congratulations
Thank
for
you.
doing that. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Um,
I completely agree. I really think the stickers were successful because it's such a small way of giving people agency over what they want to see. It gives them a choice and it's so easy and really the risk is pretty low at the end of the day, you know. So I think that's why people really embraced it. But you bring up a really good point that artists, I think, are very good at creativity, finding those solutions, and also storytelling. And story is what brings people into a revolution. And some other people that come to mind, Banksy is a really big one of the modern times. He does street art for those who haven't seen his work. He's anonymous, he's faceless, but he does this street art that calls attention to social injustices happening around the world. And people get behind that. Other types of art forms are obviously music. Music has been a huge part of revolutions, the 60s and 70s. All the big bands during that time are a great example of that. We're seeing a lot of music coming out right now about people wanting change and the social injustice happening right now. And also film, acting, sculpture. There's so many examples. I actually was just listening to the Hamilton soundtrack last night, and that's a great reminder of art being able to capture history and the beauty of that revolution and how there's some parallels happening in modern day. So if you haven't listened to the Hamilton soundtrack recently, I highly recommend it to anybody.
that's awesome. I actually haven't listened to it, so maybe I will
Oh,
listen to
it's
it today.
phenomenal. Yeah, it's
Okay.
so good.
I'll get inspired. So, anyway, thank you so much for giving us your time. I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I will post your wonderful artwork and stickers on my page and link back to your. I think you have a really um, you have a bunch of followers now on your Instagram page, right? Like, have a lot come from this sticker, or did you already have
Um,
them?
I actually had quite a few followers. I've seen an uptick in social media following, but really I've seen a huge influx of people to my email newsletter. And I send a newsletter out sometimes weekly, sometimes it's every other week, depending on my ability to form words. Um, but people really enjoy that. And I think what people are really most excited about too is the positive impact that we're having on national parks with these stickers. So I haven't mentioned it yet here, but in many of the news reports, it clearly states 100% of proceeds from these stickers go to support the national parks. So I'm not keeping any proceeds myself. In December alone, we were able to donate $16,000 to the National Park Conservation Association. We are on track to donate a pretty large sum to the Center for Biological Diversity this month at the end of January. They are the nonprofit that's leading the court case against the Department of the Interior for this year's parks design because it does break rules that were established into law. Um, so our everyone who buys a sticker, they're essentially making a donation as well to nonprofits that support our national parks.